Thank you very much, Stephen. Well, although I actually built a 380Z on my first day at the company, I have got someone to actually press Alt F8 or some other sort of function keys. And while he's doing that, thank you very much for inviting me along this afternoon. We're just talking about school gates, T-Mobile, people outside with the school gates with their handhelds. But the fact is that today, within schools, there are about 1.6 million devices that are in use, which are almost entirely not handheld. They're traditional, and they're actually communal computers. They're not personal computers. And so we have a long debate about personalisation, but actually our IT is not personalised at the moment. I'm sure that this room is entirely non-representative of that average activity. So thinking about 2012, I think that that's the thing that's going to change. We're going to move away from having 1.6 million communal devices, which is currently what we've got in schools, to having a significant amount of personally owned devices. What's the evidence that things are going to change? Well, some of it's technical, but also I think some of it's educational. So I think the things that are going to change are needs and expectations. People in technology companies understanding needs and expectations of educators and of pupils and students. The devices themselves, we've already heard a lot about devices. The resources and content. You know, at the moment, a typical secondary school is running 300 different applications. Quite a lot of those are .exe. And so we have to think, although there is lots of content out there, we have to think about how you're going to get access to some of those really nice things that have been written in traditional application programming. Teachers and confidence, how's this stuff going to be deployed? Connectivity needs to be very good, and support costs, making sure that we're not just throwing a whole pile of money away on. I have I'm not converged. I have 4 devices. This is my email device, and it breaks about twice a year, and this is my 3rd. So that's no good if you've got 900 of those in a school. So support isn't just about technical support, it's also about maintainability and sustainability. So what's my evidence that things are changing? Well, I think 3 things: the educational context and policy, some of the pilots that have been going on, and also some of our own learning. In terms of context and policy, you see all of these sorts of things, stuff that's written, a lot of it by the technically literate and those people who are in that part of the world, but I think it's some of the stuff that's not from the technology area that's changing the context. So the work that Mick Walters is doing at the QCA to change our thoughts about curriculum. I think that's going to require more personalised computing. The work that the RSA is doing with their Opening Minds curriculum, which is more project-based, thinking about the skills we need rather than the facts we need to know. The 14 to 19 activity, which means that pupils are going to, and students are going to move around a lot more. Again, it's no good. The thought of computer labs, when you've got 14 to 19 and you're moving around, you need to carry your work with you. Well, that just doesn't work. I think the increase in project-based learning. I was in some schools in Melbourne in Australia a couple of weeks ago, and some things they were well ahead of us and some things they were well behind us. They have a nice bit of their course for Key Stage 3, not that they call it that, where they give the pupils a job of designing and building an electronic cuddly toy over the space of 2 weeks. And they don't do anything else in that 2 weeks, and it's supposed to do design and technology, they're supposed to write about it, research, physics, electronics, engineering, all in that 2 weeks. And you speak to the people there and they say, well, it's no good having computers for that because they want to take their designs home, they want to bring it everywhere they're going. It's absolutely as essential for them as their books. So I think there's that. The context is changing. I think the practice is changing, and some of these people, I'm sure some of you are in this room, have done a great job. Durham have been looking at using handhelds on school improvement, and Wolverhampton have been incredibly tenacious and been around and seen everyone in the whole country, I think, and several times. And you're certainly very hard to get hold of Dave Wiley, except at midnight on a Sunday or something. So we're not going to take any credit for those, but they've been good for us in learning, and I'm sure they've been good for lots of other people. In our own learning, we've done lots of things. I just talk about one of them, which has not received any publicity because we've not publicised it. And so in Newham, we put in a PFI project with the London Borough of Newham, excellent borough, difficult borough, but an excellent borough, well run. And we ran half the primary schools at Key Stage 3. Now, there's about 4,000 to 5,000 pupils, now have traditional laptops but it's their own personal devices. They take them home. We did a whole pile of stuff on security and making sure they don't get nicked, and we have some software which loads their work on in the evenings. And if you go and speak to those pupils, you find they actually do more work. So, 15% of a pupil's waking life is in school. The rest isn't. And they actually say, well, it's our device, we don't have to share it with the family, it comes home with our work, and we do more work. And as a result, over the last 2 years, the half of the primary schools that have been in our project have moved their SATs relative to the half that haven't by 3 and 4%. And that's a big cohort to get that sort of movement on. It's not just technology, we do also put a pile of educational help in with the practice, with the teachers. So there's an example there. We're working on a new pilot we're just launching, which is really around continuing professional development with the University of Ulster and ConnectEd and their Lecternity software. And we hope to tell you more about that when we've got some experience, but we're just starting that this month. So that's really interesting. So there are some things. The other thing that we think about is, we're talking handheld today, but actually it's not just handheld, is it? It's one-to-one to get the personalisation. And it's very portable. I don't think it necessarily has to be handheld. I was at the Scottish Learning Festival a couple of weeks ago, and Fiona Hislop, who's the new SNP Minister for Education, was there on the stand being shown the wonderful learning platform. Her eyes were starting to glaze over with all the features and functions. She saw some kids on the edge of the stand. The kids have been using it for a couple of weeks. She went to talk to them. Politician, good opportunity, she thought. Go and talk to some Year 7. Year 7 in Scotland is primary, and she said, what do you think? And they said, fantastic. All of them, this whole class said, fantastic, really enjoyed it. And those that had some computing at home were able to say, and our parents were able to see our Big Brother video, our World War II project. But those of them that didn't, of course, couldn't say that. And I think that split is one of the things that's important. And so devices aren't there yet for a whole pile of reasons. And I don't think we've got the perfect device anywhere yet. If you look at what we do have, we've got this. We've got the traditional old desktop in the top right-hand corner, excellent for running Sibelius and video editing and things like that. We've got the trusty 6310 in the bottom there on the left-hand side, which I still carry my 6310 in my non-converged world. And if you go up there, you've got the nice Nokia web tablet. You've some downstairs, they're really good. And if you come back down, then you've got the sort of Classmate and the lovely Samsung device. That's really, really nice device. And I think that you see these two worlds are converging. And people have some slightly different expectations of these worlds. And the stuff that's on the top right, they expect to be able to load software on it. Yeah, but if you looked at the BBC slide from earlier, it said, how many of the functions that our phone came with have we used? And so the assumption was that that's what you get. You get the functions with that appliance. And you don't expect to load large, complicated device drivers or other things into it. And if it goes wrong, it's reset to defaults. That's what you're expecting to do. And so we think there's a gap in the middle here. A gap in the middle in both terms of portability and price and functionality and how you view it. And I think that that's one of the things that we need to fill in to get to 2012. Because this stuff on the left is interesting, but it's quite hard to do some of the stuff you want to do with. And this stuff up here is expensive and difficult to support and heavy to carry around. So it's that gap that I think is interesting. One of the things we've got downstairs is something that we've just launched, and it's a 900-gram device. It's here, and so that's incredibly light, but it's a very traditional form factor. So you still type away whatever you want to type away. It's a full web browser. It's got built-in Wi-Fi. It's got optional 3G. It's got a flash drive that our colleague from Intel was talking about, and so no rotating hard disk in it, neither 2 or 4 gig flash drive. And a camera, speakers, microphone, and so it's got pretty much everything you'd want. And I know I'm not supposed to be doing any sort of commercial stuff, but it is 169 quid, and I think that that fits the gap in that slide as well. A year and a half's worth of a typical secondary school budget, you could equip everyone in the school with one of those. Now, we've never been there before. And I think that that is an example, and you think about those students at the Scottish Learning Festival, none of them would have to be able to say, well, I haven't been able to show it to my parents. So that's a little bit about devices. Nothing's perfect, there's lots to do on it, but we do think that's a bit of a breakthrough. And I think that was part of the thing that's going to help us change to more personal computing. And you can see it fits, we think, right in the middle of those two devices. And because it fits right in the middle, you know, on this side over here, I was asking someone on the train the other day who was using their BlackBerry, what operating system does it run? Haven't got a clue, and why should I care? Yeah, and I think that's a very good point. And so that's how we're fitting this device at the moment. It's an appliance. It does what it comes with. Don't ask us how to add a new device driver in it, because we ain't going to tell you. It does what it does. We probably will come out with our colleagues at Microsoft with something that is in the same form factor but fits on the other side of the line. And so as flash drive and all those other things. We've done this device with our colleagues at ASUS. ASUS are a long-term partners of us. We developed the Mobile One range with them. And it's a lot of their thinking that's gone into the device, and we're very proud to be able to market in the UK with them. The other thing I want to talk about is content. And so we've been thinking a lot about content, and Stephen's always given us a bit of a kicking for it needs to be pupil-generated. And URM haven't done enough pupil-generated stuff. That's his constant refrain for us. And a couple of years ago, we did some stuff which is available actually on EDA called Sonica Spanish. It's also available on mainstream PCs and other things. And it's a really nice little thing. Does dance mats, it's got a visual dictionary, and it's for language learning in primary schools. And the government actually did attend to pay for this. And why did they do that? Well, because actually there's not much of a market yet for language learning software in primary schools, and they wanted to exceed the market, get something out there to be used. So it cost a lot of money. It cost, you know, many tens of man-years of programming effort, nasty, horrible programming effort to write it. A little while later, one of the other people in the market came along and asked our 3T division to say, could you do something for us on a different language learning product called Tulamon, which is an excellent language piece of software. And we said, well, we can learn some stuff out of what we did in Sonica, and we can make that a bit easier. And then we thought, actually, there's some general purpose engines we can use here, and we could make those available to publishers generally. And so we came up with a thing called Fuse Publisher, which I'm not going to talk about because it's not publishing, which is aimed at professional publishers. And then Steve was giving us another kicking reason. And we thought, well, actually, we could take this tool and we could make it available for teachers and pupils and anyone that's interested. And so we've come up with this thing called Fuse Creator. And this is in our labs at the moment. We have no price. We don't know when we're going to ship it. But I think that is the sort of thing that I'm going to show you it in a second. That's the sort of thing that content's going to move to. Self-generated content. This is learning content. And so what sort of things would you want if you wanted learning software? Well, it's got to be easy to create, it's got to be SCORM compliant, it's got to be web-based, it's got to run on multiple platforms. I think those are sort of your tick list. And so here are the different interactions that we've managed to create in the prototype of this thing called Fuse. And you can see here, you know, you've got a little geography exercise, someone's got to label those things up. You can choose all the different aspects. You know, does it mark it? Does it, if you put the wrong thing in the wrong box, does it leap backwards, or does it tell you got it wrong? You can choose all of those things. And so maybe we should have a little look at, if I can use this technology. Here is a live Fuse device, and as I say, it's quite prototype at the moment. I've chosen the simplest form of interaction. Someone's chosen these pictures, chosen these words, and you can click on the picture, you can do a linking line, you know, is that the Matterhorn? I don't know, probably not. And you can do that, and if you want to load it out of your learning platform, you can do that, and if you want the assessment data to go back on the learning platform, you can do that too. Now, let's do a bit of live programming. That's a bold for on stage. So, here is a form, actually, and that's how this activity is created. And if I want to change that, say I want to insert a pair in here, it's pair number 5. What's the image? Oh, the only other image I've got is the little device I've just been talking about. I don't know, I'm not supposed to be commercial, but I don't know, something like that perhaps. Oh, just save that. Now, of course, I've got to do some complicated compilation and linking, and oh, I don't actually. I can just nip back to my browser and reload it. And there is that device with that changed. And actually, I can do that with all the different things. And the other things we're working on at the moment are putting the dance mat and putting the voting devices on. So you can just roll your own software. And that software will run on whatever device you want, because it's web-based. And we think that that's for a really interesting way for us to go forward, rather than to say, people, you just buy these self-canned chunks of content. So, that's some of the things that we're working on and some of the developments that we see coming forward. We don't think we've got all the answers. We don't think any of the things we do are perfect and all need improving. And we think that it's been really nice working with some of the other people around and listening to what they've got to say. And we've certainly built on what they're doing. Thank you very much.